Shalom, I'm Brother Rael from Reyahnited Soul, and in this video, I'm going to discuss getting on code and staying on code. And although there is a widespread call for the black community to get on code, we just can't seem to do that collectively, and I'm going to discuss why. So, let us nourish our soul with scripture, that we may reunite with the Most High, the Elohim of Yisrael. All scriptures will be read verbatim from the King James Version Bible. Now let's get right into it. In this discussion, I'm going to use the term black community as a means of identifying the Most High's people. I hope this won't be a distraction from the purpose of this discussion. However, if there is division among us concerning the name of the Most High, of course, there will be division concerning the name of his people as well. Because we, the black community, Afro-Americans, African-Americans, Negroes, Coloreds, are actually called by the Most High's name, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 10, and I read, "And all people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee." And they shall be afraid of thee. Why? Because we're called by his name. That's why it was so important to the heathen during the transatlantic slave trade to erase our history, name, and heritage while forcing our people into illiteracy for over 2 centuries. The heathens murdered our slave ancestors and found if they could read. Now we must understand that the heathen will fulfill their prophetic assignments. And what assignment am I speaking of? Let's go to it. Psalms chapter 83, verses 2 through 5. And I read, "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee." We are simply a scattered people cut off from being a nation, a people whose name is no more in remembrance. And in order to remove the name of the Most High's people from remembrance, they had to attempt to conceal the Most High's name as well, by merely referring to him as God or Lord. As you can see in verse 4, the name Israel does not have the Most High's name in it, so that cannot be the name of our people. I know that many of you have grown to love the name Israel. Question is, do they love the truth more than they love the lie? Also, verse 5 states that together they are with one consent. They are confederate against thee. In other words, heathen nations will be on code with one another and stay on code with one another. Now, let that sink in for a moment. Brothers and sisters, the black community is clearly living out Old Testament prophecy. The problem that we have is that majority of our people are caught up in New Testament doctrine, which diverts their attention away from what the Most High said was going to happen to his people. So they're very busy trying to figure out, analyze, and debate New Testament trivia from the book of Revelations, instead of just heeding to the word of the Most High in the Tanakh or the Old Testament scriptures. But I digress. So, what is the code exactly? And why does the black community push getting on code so often, but struggle to define and maintain a code? Let's be very clear. Our people are scattered, divided, and have grown to prefer the lifestyles of the heathen. The very same heathen that has been empowered by the Most High to afflict his people. Now, many of our people are marching lockstep with the heathen. And as the saying goes, if you can't beat them, submit to them. That's right, brothers and sisters. You can't join the heathen. They don't want you joining them. However, if you are a good Negro, they may in fact take you as a pet, or possibly allow you to be their Negro tool, which means that many of our people will not fully support a code that will empower the black community and jeopardize their relations with their heathen handlers. You'll have black people who talk a good game of black empowerment, while at the same time living lifestyles that undermine black empowerment. And for various reasons: money, sexual access, fame, status. Now, that is indeed a topic for another discussion. It is people such as these who will undermine the black community's code as they inject themselves into our black empowerment conversations and inject themselves into our black empowerment think tanks, planning black empowerment strategies. Their assignment is to divert the conversation by making a non-issue an issue, to dilute the energy by talking in circles, and to cause discord among the brothers and sisters with double-speaking forked tongues. Now, many of you know of so-called black organizations that do not have the black community's best interests at heart. Some are heathen funded. Now, how do you get them on code? A major problem, as with any civil war, is that it becomes very difficult to distinguish friend from foe. Infiltration is difficult to detect and defend against when your opposition looks like you, talks like you, and can easily blend in with you. As with our great black community leaders throughout history, our own people were instrumental in taking many of them down. Now let me repeat that. As with our great black community leaders throughout history, our own people were instrumental in taking many of them down. I totally understand the need for us to get on code. Many of our people would agree that we as a people need to get on code and stay on code. The question is, why hasn't it been done yet, collectively? Now, let's go ahead and shift our attention to the heathen for a moment. And you may ask yourself, why is that even necessary? Because according to Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 27, we will be left few in number among the heathen. And we can clearly see that the heathen has a code and has no problem staying on their heathen code for the past 400 years. And what do I mean by heathen code? Well, I'm sure that majority of you have seen it in action wherever heathens are gathered. One heathen can do something wrong against you on the job and get caught red-handed. But they'll be all on the same page to try and dismiss it or sweep it under the carpet. And if they can't do that, they'll all be in agreement to minimize the transgression and simply just move past it. Now, if you don't allow them to do that because you want to see that justice is served, then you may in fact become the problem, where you will be dealt with more so than the heathen who wronged you. Even those that you thought were cool with you will begin looking at you sideways. And I know for some of you that truly hurts your delicate heart, but that's the heathen code in action. If you're wondering who exactly is the heathen, please take a look at my video discussion, Understanding the Scenario We're In, for a more detailed breakdown of the heathen. We must understand that the heathen code is an unspoken agreement within the heathen community that takes no prior meetings, no collaboration, or no formal training. Right or wrong, come hell or high water, the heathen will stick together like glue and stay on the heathen code when it comes to afflicting the black community. Have you ever seen incompetent people who sit comfortably holding high positions that they are not even qualified to hold? You may just write it off as being privileged, but it's the heathen code that keeps them safely there, in their position. Have you ever wondered why certain people will back law enforcement no matter what atrocities that they commit? The officer's abusive track record becomes totally irrelevant. To hell with the black victim, and damn the video footage. That doesn't tell us the whole story. Now, that's the heathens stand on code. The heathen code is what keeps our captivity locked solidly in place. It is coded into their DNA like a computer program. In other words, that code is inherited to the heathen through creation, so it really doesn't have to be taught to them intellectually. Classes or certifications are not required. Think of it like an animal's instinct inherited through the species. Like birds, for example. They don't have to go through years of flight school like human pilots. No, not at all. Mama bird knows when it's time without even looking at a calendar or a clock, and just gives the young bird a nudge out of the nest. And through instincts, the young bird learns to fly. So, animals have instincts as to what they should be doing for survival as a species. Now, who do you think gave those animals that instinct? Or should I say code? The Most High gave it to them, so that they may perform their assigned purpose on this earth. And likewise, who do you think gave the heathen their code? Or should I say instinct? The Most High, no doubt, to perform their purpose and assignment on this earth, which is currently afflicting the Most High's people. And when the Most High provides something, whether we like it or not, it's going to produce with excellence and precision. 400 years of heathen stand on code kind of excellence. Afflicting our people continuously 24 hours a day, 7 days a week kind of excellence. And here we are, continuously trying to get our people to get on code. Let me be clear. I'm not just saying this to mock or disparage my beloved brothers and sisters. I want to see our people on code and stay on code. And I'm saying this in order for our people to reconsider establishing a code that has yet to be achieved and accept the code that has already been provided for us by the Most High Himself. A code that will not fail our people if we stay on code. So hopefully by now, you can understand how the heathen is able to get on code and stay on code throughout the centuries of our captivity. Now, let's take a look at our situation and figure out why we seem to struggle with some kind of code that can keep us not only united as a people, but as a community destined for great things. For the best results, we must factor into the equation that even during slavery, not all of our people, for whatever reason, could be trusted with plans of freedom. That's right, some of our people were beholden to their heathen masters and would simply expose the plan and get courageous people murdered. As you can see, things have not changed much, as our people still align themselves with their heathen handlers. Best believe that many of our people's loyalties lie first and foremost to their lifestyles, before loyalty to their own people. And even in our awakened community, we have brothers and sisters loyal to whatever religious, spiritual, or historical ideologies that they may have. Let me repeat that. Even in our awakened community, we have brothers and sisters loyal to whatever religious, spiritual, or historical ideologies that they may have. So having a united code, whatever that code may be, will always be a challenge to achieve. Some people may say that we need a leader to establish and enforce a code, which makes sense. And on the other hand, some will say a leader is not required, that the code itself is the leader, which also makes sense in a way because for the past 400 years, the heathen has effectively eliminated our leaders by prison or murder in order to slow or derail a movement. So, a leaderless movement is a good strategy. However, there's that problem with establishing a universal code. And what happens when someone is off code? When a code cannot be defined, then there can be no system of reward or penalty for staying on code or getting off code. Basically, all it can ever be is a catchphrase. Stay on code. You're off code. Then what? What's the penalty for being off code? And who established that penalty uniformly across the board? So, as you can see, without a leader or authority to define the code and establish the penalties for breaking the code, to put it plainly, you have no code. It's just a catchphrase. So, if the Most High provided the heathen their effective code, do you think the Most High would have given his people an effective code as well? Of course he did. And that code is our covenant. Yes, that's right. The covenant the Most High made with his people is our code. He established our code. He set the parameters of our code. And he set rewards and consequences for that code uniformly across the board. Now, the problem that we have is that we're trying as a scattered and divided people to develop our own code to defend ourselves against the heathen who was given their effective code by the Most High. And whose code do you think will prevail? A code that we as a people put together, or the heathen's code given to them by the Most High? I think the answer is quite obvious. Although I can anticipate the excuse that not all of the black community believe in the covenant that the Most High made with our ancestors. And I'll respond to that by saying, with the majority of the black community being New Testament believers, majority of our people should be in agreement with the Most High's covenant, or at least be familiar with it, which makes it more feasible than creating a code from out of thin blue air. So, we just merely need to get on code according to the covenant that the Most High has already established for us. There's no sense in the black community trying to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. By understanding what the Most High has promised his people and what he expects in return, we as a people can better understand the code he provided. A code that rewards as well as punishes. Now, you can see what happens when the Most High's people stay on code according to his word. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read it, but I highly suggest that you read Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 1 through 15 when you get the time. You should be familiar with the benefits of staying on our code the Most High provided. Now, mind you, even if we were to make an attempt to get on code that the Most High provided, we'll have brothers with those debating spirits that will question what commandments we should or should not be following, that we're in captivity and can't do this, that, or the other. Understand, brothers and sisters, I'm not suggesting that you perform the duties of Levitical priests. I'm not suggesting that you build altars, start sacrificing animals, or speak Hebrew, or whether you should be observing this or that holy day on this or that specific date during the designated time of the day and while in captivity. No, not at all. What I'm suggesting to you is that you familiarize yourself with what the Most High commanded us to do. Until you become familiar with them, you have no idea what they are. Then, when you become familiar with them, you can determine the ones that you're able to keep to the best of your ability in your current situation. Family, we have to start somewhere. Like a baby coming out of the womb who just opened its eyes, it's a process that they must go through before they become that mature man or woman of the Most High. A baby must learn to crawl before they can walk, coo before they can talk, and run before they can fight. This is a process that doesn't happen overnight. And likewise, although each and every one of us is different, with different learning curves, we as a people are but babes opening our eyes to the truth of who we are. Opening our eyes to the fact that we are not the people who the heathen told us we were, which is ex-slaves without a history or a future. It takes time to come out of centuries of that kind of mind programming. It will take baby steps for us to deprogram ourselves from the lies that the heathen has instilled in us. What our heathen-approved celebrities and leaders have shown us, and how we continuously devalue ourselves as a people for the heathen's entertaining pleasure. It will take courage and discipline in order for our people to wean ourselves from suckling on the heathen's tit, and instead nourish and strengthen ourselves with the word of the Most High. All praise to the Most High Yah. To read and learn what the Most High commanded his people what to do and what not to do. Then and only then can we see value in keeping a code, which is our covenant that the Most High provided, and stay on code. A code that is far superior to the heathen's code. Our code that the Most High gave us will put the heathen's code under our submission, if only we would use it. Because the heathen is definitely using their code to its full extent. Yet, here we are, a scattered and divided people, attempting to develop a code on our own. And let's be very clear, even if we do succeed at establishing a code for the black community, it will surely be inferior to the heathen's code that the Most High gave them. In conclusion, we know that the Most High has given his people laws, statutes, and commandments. However, if we just took heed to what the Most High said for the very first time that he instructed his people while in the wilderness, it will go well for us. These set of instructions must have been priority for the Most High because he addressed it personally with his own voice to all his people. Let's go to it. Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 23, and I read. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that the days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. And just in case you might have missed it, we go a few verses down and we'll see the Most High emphasize again for his people to stay away from idolatry according to Exodus chapter 20, verses 22 through 23. And I read, And the Lord said unto Moses, Thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, Ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold. This was the first set of commands spoken by the Most High personally to his people. This is part of our code in its simplest form. It goes much deeper with dietary laws and who we should not be mingling with or making covenants with, and more. However, if you can't keep the basic parts of this code, then the deeper part is irrelevant to you. Case in point, majority of our people has failed to keep the first command of the code, which is, Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Our biblical ancestors gotten off code many times with idolatry because for some reason they just didn't see a problem with it. Likewise, today, majority of our people are tangled in the New Testament doctrine of worshiping the Messiah or Hamashiach. And like our ancestors, they just don't see a problem with it. Strange how that behavior has not changed over time. Which is the very reason why the Most High will establish the new covenant according to Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 through 34. Because if left up to us, we'll keep repeating the same idolatrous mistakes of our ancestors and continue going in and out of never-ending captivities and being ruled over by the heathen. So, I ask you, brothers and sisters, and even to the strangers who cleave to the Most High's people, are you ready for a change in rulership, as in a righteous rulership? Do you understand that Earth's current rulership cannot undo the damage that they have done to the earth? Are you aware that they're in the process of destroying this earth as well as everyone in it? The current rulership is simply not fit to rule or cultivate this earth. That honor is bestowed upon the Most High's people. No one can be better stewards over the Most High's creation than his people. The strangers are aware of this, which is why they cleave to the Most High's people. So, if you don't want to see the entire earth turned into a wasteland, let's get on code and stay on code. That means you too, strangers. Separate yourselves from the heathen and get on code and stay on code. The code that the Most High provided to his people. A code far superior than the heathen's code. Lastly, I'm not going to speculate why billionaires are obsessing over getting off this planet. They are destroying this earth while simultaneously seeking technology to reach other planets to exploit and destroy. I will say this, however, no one can outrun judgment. You can't leave the Most High's jurisdiction. His wrath is coming, and if you're on the wrong side of judgment, there's no sanctuary for you anywhere. Not on the earth, not in the oceans below the earth, or the heavens above. Let's go to it. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 3 through 5. And I read, That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. So, if the Most High can gather his people from the outmost parts of heaven, according to verse 4, best believe, no matter how far your rocket ship will take you, the Most High is going to snatch you up in order for you to pay the debt owed by you, as well as your ancestors, for the affliction done to his people. With that being said, always keep your trust in the Most High. Love him with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. See to it that your household is in line with the word of the Most High as best you can. I thank you for taking the time to watch. Again, I am Rael, your reunited soul brother. And with that, I say to you, Shalom.